Y'all, we're back in North Pole Rusher. Today, I'm going to be talking about a couple of controllers that I have had forever. This is my original Sega Genesis controller that came with my Model 1 back when we bought it brand new. I think it was somewhere between 5-7 years old, I think, when we got that. And then I discovered the Capcom controller. This became my favorite controller as far as the Sega goes. I used this for everything once I found this out. Just the way it fit in my hands, held it there, everything just felt amazing. So neither one of these two have been cleaned or opened in over 20 years. So let's go ahead and pop them open and see what they look like on the inside, because I know this one has a couple of squishy buttons. So let's go ahead and take a look. It's on there, so why not have Super Mario down when we're talking about Sega? Because that makes perfect sense. Anyways, like I said, these were my original controllers, and I haven't opened up either one, but just the ergonomics of like the Capcom Fight one for doing fighting games, you know, your hands on top or just off to the side. Like, this just felt so good in my hands back as a kid. And that of just where your hand wraps around the backside, you can go off to the side, or you can sit up top with it. It was an absolutely amazing, fun controller back then. And a lot of people didn't know this, and it wasn't in a lot of the manuals on these 6-button controllers. But if you're doing something like Mortal Kombat, you have your high punch, low punch, high kick, low kick, and the two center ones were block. Issue is if you're ever actually trying to input the blood code on the beginning, especially on the Sega Genesis, it was an issue if you're trying to do the A, B, A, C, A, B, B. And the fact that it wouldn't actually work correctly sometimes. And they had the mode button up top, which was to actually turn this into a 3-button controller from the 6-button. But what a lot of things didn't explain is you needed to hold down the mode button while you were turning your console on for that to actually switch this to a 3-button controller. Also, other games like Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkatron, if you had the standard controller, you used to have to pause it to get into some of the other actual options. Like, I think there was a super vac in there, and then like the weird little like phasing things so you can fly through walls, and there's one other thing I don't remember. Haven't played that game in like 22 years, so I just remember those were options. But on the 6-button controller, you could actually just hit these without having to actually go into the pause menu to bring those up. Just a little tangent on the side note, but I do know that this controller got a couple of squishy buttons. A lot of it has to do with yeah, like I said, this was my original controller. I have never taken this one apart, never cleaned it either, and it's not too bad on the outside. I mean, it's got a few little spots on there that you're probably not going to be able to see on that side camera, mostly because at some point in time I'll get a better webcam for that side. But like I said, let's pop these open, take a look. I think it's the B button. No, it's the A button on this one that's having a couple of issues, but it's probably from doing Mortal Kombat when you're doing the break, especially the diamonds. We used to fold our knuckles back and drag them across this and then smack the start button to break them. So if you were a kid back in the day and you remember your bloody knuckles from playing Mortal Kombat on the Sega Genesis, leave your comments below. I want to hear about them, because I know there was more than one occasion my teachers thought I was fighting, and well, I was, but it was just in a video game. And so there was a couple of concerns on that back when I was a kid, and a few of my friends, once they got the game or came over and played it, they had the same issues. But the thing I find funny about this is there are 6 screws in the bottom of the regular Sega controller, and there's only 4 on the Capcom one, but it has one that's hiding underneath. Like I said, never really opened this thing up. And then, like I said, if you like the Mario puzzle, pick it up at Five Below. It was actually kind of cool and fun to put together. They have another one too. It all fits in, but it comes in this kind of cool 10 box. The only thing that bugged me about it is the sticker's not centered, but that's what the puzzle came in. I actually thought it was going to be this, I should have looked at the bottom and saw that it wasn't going to be that, but either way, it's still pretty cool. All right, there's our back half. That actually isn't really too dirty on the inside. Oh, back of our pads aren't too bad. There's a bit of corrosion on the pads. I don't think I'm going to do a whole lot of cleaning on actually any of this. I usually would wipe it down with some isopropyl alcohol and that. There's a slight bit of corrosion on those pads. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that on that camera up top. It won't show up super well on our side one. Yeah. No, not really. But what I'm going to do is just take a fiberglass scratch pen. These things are great. If you don't own one, you should go get one. They're super cheap. They're just really fiberglass bristles on the back, and it works like a mechanical pencil. If anybody remembers mechanical pencils, and they're just really nice for cleaning up contacts. So I get my hand out of the way. You can see all the dust and stuff that's coming up around those. So great for old Nintendo games, 64. I mean, pretty much anything that's cartridge based. I know I'm cleaning Sega controllers and talking about Nintendo. It's a fun, weird conversation. But just, yeah, just what the inside of my 25, 30-year-old controller looks like. And the outside. I mean, the outside's really not that bad. It's a little scratched up. Because that, but I mean, we had a couple of consoles. We had a Sega. Friends had a Super Nintendo. So we go back and forth. You know, we didn't grow up with a whole lot of money, just like a lot of other people. So we took care of our stuff just because if we needed a new controller, we were going to have to mow a lot of lawns and make the money ourselves because our parents weren't just going to go run out and buy it for us. And it wasn't that they were cheap or stingy or anything like that. It was just learning the value of a dollar and where your stuff came from. A lot of people today are just handed a lot of things. I mean, I see kids with cell phones in like middle school. And that just blows my mind, and that's probably dating me and making me sound really old. The time of recording this, which is the 11th, I mean, I literally just turned 38 3 days ago. But it's just one of those things. I got my first cell phone when I got a car, and it was literally because I drove the most unreliable car on the planet. And I mean, call boxes on the side of the road were still a thing. And kids, if you don't know what a call box is, ask your parents. They can tell you. Those things were lifesavers back in the day, because that was how you got a hold of pretty much emergency services. You couldn't just call 911 from anywhere on the planet like you can now. Couldn't just randomly call for a tow truck. You had to go walk about a mile or two to get to a call box on the side of the road. Do it like that. So, in one way, lucky when it comes to certain things. Other ways, I don't envy you guys at all, because a lot of you have issues with stuff online and weird Facebook accounts and stuff like that. Let's get this Capcom controller popped open and take a look on the inside of this. This one I did open up a really long time ago, just because out of pure curiosity I wanted to know what the inside of this thing looked like, because I didn't understand the shape of the controller, but this is still one of my favorite controllers just because of the shape. And there's your strain relief. A knot in the bottom is a strain relief on this controller. I mean, just look at the plastic molding on this thing. It's freaking awesome, especially for how old it is. I mean, it's just rough edges and everything on the inside, not super refined or anything. Get it off the top of that pin without breaking it. The backs of our buttons all look good. The pads look fine. Oh yeah, so does that side. I've never had an issue with this controller, mostly because never really knuckled up on it. Oh yeah, you can see this one actually has coating over the top of the pads so they don't corrode, which is probably why I've never had an issue with the inside of this thing. And it is super clean. But I'll get this one put back together off camera because y'all don't need to watch me put that one back together. But I just wanted to show you guys inside of my original Genesis controller. That couple squishy buttons, fiberglass scratch pin, smack the pads, clean it up, should be as good as new again. Thanks for stopping in. Like, subscribe, share. Stay tuned for the next one. Have a good night.